Hello, and welcome back to Infinite E, where the entertainment is limitless. Today, we're gonna dig deep in documentaries. And also, we have a new host. I mean, not new host, a new guest, Nikhil. How are you?
Hey Harsh, glad to have you. Uh, Glad to speak to you. And I have been following your work for a while, and it's very exciting to have a word with you in this platform.
It's great to have you also here. And so, before we begin and before we dig into these four documentaries that both of us thought that everyone should be watching, we would first like to mention what a documentary is, like to us personally. So, I'll begin and then I'll ask you on. I feel that a documentary, to me, documentary means truth,
Hmm.
reality. Um, the real thing, as in like nothing is bended. Like there's no Hollywood magic into it, or like Bollywood spice into it to make it even more interesting. It's the truth, it's the reality, and it's there, and it's for everyone to understand and know what's really happening. What do you
Hmm.
think a documentary to you is?
I think, like cinema, they say, cinema is capable of holding on to the past. As such, the quality of cinema is ability to hold on to the past. It's a part of the past that will remain for a very long period of time. Documentary is, as you said, truth which was held in that position at that point of time, said and reflected in the form of real people with real stories. So none of them are acting in so many senses. While there are certain forms of documentary which in today's day kind of combine the fiction with the with and combine the drama along with the documentary real life imagery, but documentary in its bisecting nature, by its basic nature, is something which is capable to convey something which has happened in its true glory, in its voices, in its thoughts, and with real people who are not trying to portray something else but really feeling things, expressing them, and that remains for a very long period of time. So I don't know, it's immortality in so many senses.
In a way, yes.
Yeah.
And so today we've picked four interesting documentaries, and each of them are what you call interesting in their own manner. And plus, at the same time, they all four, two of them connect. Like each of them pair up and connect, and
Hmm.
topic wise and like themes. So the four that we're going to be talking about are it's called Crime Scene: The Vanishing at Cecil Hotel,
Hmm.
Three Identical Strangers, The World Before Her, and the last one is Fahrenheit 11/9.
Yeah.
So let's begin with Crime Scene: The Vanishing at Cecil Hotel. So when we were making this list, I was like, "Hey, Nikhil, you should watch this." And from what I heard now, you've literally just finished it like a few hours ago. What do you think about it?
I personally have watched a few documentaries. Most of them actually I find at the Mumbai Film Festival. Mami Film Festival, which they call it, Mumbai Association of Moving Images, MAMI, and some of the most fascinating movies I've seen over there. And now, of all the films that I've seen, I found this genre of docudrama, which combines the documentary element with the drama element. Certain parts are being recreated in the form of what really happened at that particular moment. Certain parts which are being said by true people who experienced that particular moment is what this particular form is. This is a unique form of where you not only hear the real words of the real people who are experiencing those moments, but also certain images come alive. I feel this particular film, The Vanishing at the Cecil Hotel, uh, is one such film in that genre, in which, of course, the events which revolve around this particular story is the vanishing of this one particular girl uh, who stayed at the Cecil Hotel. Yeah, this girl just goes and stays over there, and she, one fine day, disappears. out of thin air. Nobody knows where did she go. Nobody. It's almost like, how the Gone Girl was. Like just suddenly one day, you don't really know where she kind of disappears, and LAPD is wondering, and then the entire past of this hotel comes alive in so many senses. The Cecil Hotel, which is there in downtown LA for I don't know how many 100 years, and the number of people who have suffered in that hotel, the number of people who have committed suicide in the hotel, the number of people who have lived around that hotel and gain access to the hotel because it's a hotel which probably gives rooms to people who are homeless, uh, and all the history of the hotel starts to come alive in this story. And of course, while all of this is happening, there is this one little girl called Elisa Lamb who comes and stays over there, and she disappears. LAPD is interested in what's happening. They can't find what's happening, and then they chance upon one video of her, which is going through the elevator, and they see her going from the elevator, but they realize that there is no image or there's no documentation of her leaving the hotel ever. So, so they just realize, God, that means that she is still in the hotel, and this is like almost I think a week or two after she's lost. And they just realize, God, she never left the hotel. That means she's still in the hotel. Now, what happens and unfolds after that is completely out of some kind of uh, strange horror genre. I have never ever felt so scared in my life when I watched a documentary as much as I did uh, when I watched The Vanishing at the Cecil Hotel. And I think the narrative element, the way they did the cinematography, the way they told the story, and the real life story of Elisa Lam, her experiences, her sufferings, and her very unique story, which was not possible and probably created this unique episode of where the internet sleuths got involved from all over the world to try to
Exactly.
find out how she disappeared is what this documentary. I can talk for it for the entire hour, Harsh, and I think that would not be then we could not be doing justice to all the other films. But I can go
True.
on. But what did you feel about it? I would like to know too.
Like for me, I actually didn't even come to the part, like I didn't come to the documentary because the documentary wasn't out when I first got to know about, Elisa Lam. Because when I saw her footage, the footage that everyone, the infamous footage of her being in the elevator, that I first saw in like a video compilation, or
Mm,
what do you call it, like it was of horror videos in or horror like scary things in real world. That's what this one YouTube video was called, and
mm,
that's where I saw Erica Lamb's footage of her being there and her acting really weirdly in the elevator and then disappearing from there, from like exiting from the elevator. And that video, that footage till now scares me. I still get, like, right now I'm just getting goosebumps. Like right now, this that video, thinking about it just always scares me. But
mm,
overall, about the documentary, it's just that when I first saw it, when I got more information and more details about, Erica Lamb and how she disappeared, and from this documentary, I was just, as you said, scared as well. Like it that documentary, it's really amazingly put, and plus they did it in a way that it's not really like a normal documentary.
mm,
They did it in a way that it's more of like a TV show of an episode kind of a thing, where you have to watch all four of them to understand
mm.
what's really happening, or
Yeah.
else you won't get any information out of it. And as you said, that hotel that she stayed in, it has a very, very dark history. It's people who want to kill themselves go in that hotel. People who kill other people. That happens in that hotel. Prostitution, overdose, and drugs, and it's just the place that the hotel is based, right? It's called Skid Row in LA,
Mm.
and that area is where, as the documentary said, that people who are not mentally stable get dumped there after the treatments that they go through in asylums. When those people feel a bit better, they get then dumped there, and there's a lot of homeless people around Skid Row. And so finally
Mm.
getting all that information and all, it's just interesting. And
Yeah.
also, what was your thought when they said that, such those internet sleuths, as you mentioned? What do you think about those? Like, it felt pretty interesting how all these people just together came together and said that, oh no, it's actually this movie it was
Mm.
based on back then that they made before before Erica Lamb's missing happened. That they made this movie, and in that movie a girl was wearing the red jacket, and in same Erica Lamb was wearing that same red jacket. And so that was pretty interesting. Like, they came up with such things that actually connect, but they're
Mm.
so out of the ballpark kind of
Yeah.
theories.
Harsh, just a small correction. It's Elisa Lam.
Elisa
Her
Lam,
name is
sorry.
Elisa Lam. Yeah. So
Yes.
Elisa Lam, like I really like the aspect of how, first of all, it starts from the LAPD. Like they can't figure it out. They see this video of this girl going into the elevator. First of all, she's behaving strangely, and there is a small little history to the girl having a bipolar disorder. She's having uh, depression issues and all of those things, and this girl is behaving strangely, and they see the elevator footage, and on the basis of that they can't really make out what happened to her. Now they
Exactly.
unwittingly, or I don't know what, but they put it out into the public domain, and the whole world who watches the video. And I think they also mention in the film that this is not the time when viral videos were in fashion. I think
Mm-hmm.
this was one of the first few videos which actually went across the world. Like people from Hong Kong were commenting on it, people from China were correct, people from all over the world had an opinion or had wanted to figure out what happened to this young lady who was staying at the Cecil Hotel, and everybody joined in. Now there are two aspects to it. It could be said that it is good, and it had certain problems also. uh, the internet sleuths, while they were having limited amount of information, they decoded some stuff, but at the same time, so many of them went and went a little too ahead of themselves and assumed certain people are responsible. So, in a sense, it's a double-edged sword, if I can say, Harsh, that the entire internet
Yes.
sleuth domain, which actually, if you see, even today, we are struggling with, where uh, where the internet is a domain where you can easily bully someone, where you can easily help someone, where you can easily convey something or easily research something. It is a double edged sword. Uh, so while I feel that the internet sleuth story did help the Elisa Lam
Elisa
case,
Lam.
but I also feel that it also harmed it in various points. So I would suggest whoever's going to watch it really watch it for its truth, which is our truth today in so many senses, of how we're dealing with our internet and how the public domain is working in so many ways, where information, certain amount which being accessible helps people to decode, but at the same time, if it's too simply done, then it could harm somebody else's life as well.
As you mentioned about harming somebody's life through the internet, just want to mention that one part. That Mexican singer that was from
Yeah.
Mexico, who I don't remember roughly what date Elisa Lam disappeared,
Hmm.
um, but it was 2 years after her disappearance. It was, I think, I remember this. What was it? Very heavy metal,
Yeah.
Mexican singer. He stayed
Morbid.
in the Cecil. He stayed in the Cecil Hotel, and then what happened is that he didn't know, he didn't know what was happening with Erica Lam and all that, and just because his songs were just the topics that he chose for his songs, it was just like what you call it just kind of way connected with what with Elisa Lam's stuff, that
Mm.
it felt like everyone then felt like, oh no, it's him. He's the one who did it. He's the one who killed her instead,
Yeah.
and threw her wherever she ended up. And
Mm.
so, like as you did say again, he didn't do anything with it. He had nothing to do with Elisa Lam. He was just making his music. He was just visiting that hotel, and that was just 2 years after this disappearance, and everyone just attacked him. He actually was bullied, as you said. Like he was
Yeah.
bullied through the internet.
I think not only bullied, he was destroyed. Uh,
Exactly. Yeah.
he had a YouTube channel. He had an account. He had an email account. He used to go by the name of Morbid, and
Mm.
he created a lot of death metal music by playing the antagonist character of Morbid, who was a recreation or was a a manifestation of a dark side. So he used to create dark metal music, and he used to use various masks. He used to use, now, because he looked a certain way and he had a certain performative sense, people started assuming because he looked like Morbid, he was the Morbid killer of El Salam. And they did not have any reason or any proof to come by, the internet sleuths. But that is where limited amount of information does that. People take leaps. And we see this even today in the political scenario, where just because someone has put out a tweet or somebody has put out a statement, people cut that statement, people cut videos, people shorten information, and they recreate what has happened and represent people in probably the way they did never want to intend to. And in so many ways, I think Morbid says that in the end of the film also, in so many at one point of time, and he says that I too feel that I am a victim of the Cecil Hotel, uh, because it not only destroyed, because the kind of internet bullying that he faced, his his YouTube account was shut down, his email account was shut down. At no point of time he could create his music, because he always felt that he was being judged by the way he was creating music. So it's always this double-edged sword. So I don't know, Harsh, an answer to this question about these internet sleuths, because uh, it has its pros and it has its cons, like all the other
Agreed.
things in the world.
Agreed. For people who want to know where to watch this documentary, it's on Netflix, and it's a Netflix original. So please do check it out on Netflix. And so from here, let's move on to the next one. The next one is Three Identical Strangers, and it's for me Three Identical Strangers starts off all jolly and nice and
Mm.
like it's like that kind of a movie where or not movie but more like, yeah, actually movie, I'll take it as a movie. It's that kind of like a Bollywood movie where the sons, these three people have not met each other, and then they meet together, and just that happy family kind of feeling.
Yeah.
But it then has a dark, or more like a psychological uh flavoring or hint towards it, towards the end and middle of this
Mm.
documentary. For people who don't know, it's about these three strangers who were adopted by three different families, and then they all meet up together from and just yeah, they all just meet up together, and yeah, I think you should take away from what happens then.
I think it starts off very funnily. This Three Identical Strangers. I just want to say that I saw it at the at the festival, and I didn't know what to expect. Okay, so I just walk into this theater, this the Regal Theater, which is one of the biggest theaters in Mumbai, uh, and I walk into it and I don't know what to expect. I sit down, I have my popcorn, I have my chai, and I'm watching this film. I see, I see one guy who walks into school, and like he's walking into school and he doesn't know what to expect. Like me, walking into this film, don't know what to expect, and he walks in, and everybody knows him. It's funny, like you walk into a new place. Harsh, just think about it. You
Yeah.
went into school, you had to try hard to really say hello to people.
Hmm.
This guy walks into the hotel, into the school for the first time, to the university, and they know him. Like, they're saying, "Hi, why don't you join us for a game? Why don't you have this? Why don't you have that?" And he's wondering, why do these people are pretending as if they know me? Soon after, he just realizes that he there's a completely identical looking person in the same school, at the same university. He is the same age as him, and he wears the same clothes like him. Is a part of the university. So that's where he meets this person, and then everybody gets very excited and they want to know more about it, and they do some testing, or I don't know what they do. They find out they both are actually identical twins. So in so many ways, they realize that they are brothers and they were separated at birth or something like that. Okay, this gets published in the newspaper. The newspaper is out. Everybody is extremely excited to know, wow, what a coincidence. There are two people who look identical and they have met identically at this particular point of time. What are the chances of that? This paper is being read by a person who looks as identical to both of them. It is phenomenal to, like, he's saying, why the hell am I seeing two of me in the newspaper? You know? So then he gets in touch with these two people, and they come together and they realize all three of them are actually identical triplets. That is the beginning of this extremely unrealistic. Like, I haven't even seen this happen in Indian Bollywood movies, in that sense, you know, where three people, and this is reality. Like, I believe that these three people, there was Edward, there was David, and there was Robert, if I'm not wrong. There are three of them who meet each other in these remarkable circumstances. They don't only find out that they are identical to each other, but um, they are more than that. They are brothers. Now, this film is begins at this extremely comedic, semi confusion. Like, you can say that it's a recreation of Shakespeare's Comedy of Errors.
Yeah, good one.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So I think it starts off in that note, but there that entire conversation gets starts to get grim, because it's not only about three brothers who were separated by at birth randomly, but it is about three identical strangers, three identical the triplets who were separated at birth uh, for a reason. Now, what that reason is what the film is about, and it is a very comprehensive study of psychoanalysis in so many sense. Like, I feel, um, if one just sees why they had intended that these three people be separated at birth, is a study in itself, and one must watch the film for that. I don't know, Harsh, if I should spoil the movie for people, and it wouldn't be fair to, like, really say also why and what, but I genuinely feel that people should watch this film just to see what has gone into and what people have gone through, uh, for the sake of understanding what human behavior is like. I think this
Exactly.
film, this idea of why these three brothers were separated at birth, is a study of human behavior, is a study of what makes a person who they are, and the question whether just because we are who we are because we are born like that, or because we were surrounded by some people who influenced us in some ways. Because we just see the three identical strangers grew up in remarkably different environments. One was in a lower socioeconomic background, one was growing up in a middle class family, and one was growing up in an extremely affluent family. So the question then comes around that if all three of them were identical to each other at birth, did they change through the kind of lifestyle they lived, or they still remain the same after so many years? Now, I don't know the answer to that, and I don't claim to be a Jungian Freudian professor, so I wouldn't want to answer that.
But if you did have to, what would you say? Like for my, what I would think is that it, I don't know. I would say it wouldn't change, because I think it's already written in your DNA to what you would want to like, in your traits, which is
Hmm.
already given to you. I mean, I guess your thinking or your culture and all that will change, but the things that would not change are like your likes and dislikes, because even if those other two people, like as they showed you, they talked, right, that all three of them like the same cars, all three of them like the same cigarette brand, they all three of them also like the same type of they have the same taste in girls as well, all three of them are all alike, right? But then, as they said, it showed in that those three, even though they were all separated, those tastes and likes didn't change, but maybe their way of thinking and
Hmm.
their way of upbringing that has kind of influenced them has might have changed some other parts, because they do say, and I don't mind saying this part, it's not really spoiling, but they do say that those three then go in business together
Hmm.
and they open up a restaurant, but it doesn't do well.
Hmm.
And that's just because the way that they three operate is not the same way, because again, those three didn't grow up together, so that
Hmm.
affected them there. But in other cases, I don't think, even if, let's say, we did this experiment now, in the times now, we do separate three, what do you call, three kids, the triplets, I think all three of them will have still like the same likes and dislikes. It's just
Hmm.
the very little things will change and not, be much of a difference.
Yeah. So Harsh, I don't know, and again, I wouldn't claim to have an answer, but I think it's not an either or answer either. So it's not it is or it is not, like it was
True.
in Cecil Hotel. Also, it wasn't that the internet sleuths were good or bad, or they were right or wrong. There were pros and cons, and either way, I think each aspect, nature or nurture, has a certain element of influence and probably has not a certain element of influence. But again, this has been a question for people in psychoanalysis for centuries. It is something which has been around, and the answer to which Jung and Freud and I don't know, all these people probably did not have an answer to. And the principal question of psychoanalysis for all these years has been, what is it? What is it that probably influences? Okay, we just go back to Aristotle and Plato and all of these people also in Greek times. Their theses are like, what is the center? What is being? What is what is the central nature of being? Is probably what is the stemming point from philosophy where it all began. And this something which even today, when people ask whether it's nature or nurture, is basically asking who are we and where, how do we become who we are. Uh, so, in that sense, Harsh, I would just suggest that probably uh, watch the film
Yes,
and
yes, for sure.
and come up with an answer yourself. And if you know what Freud and Jung and Aristotle and Plato and Galileo and I don't know Aryabhatta did not know, then please tell us because we would really like to know.
True, true, very true, very true. I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the next one then. But yes,
Yeah.
for people who want to know where to watch Three Identical Strangers, it's on Netflix right now. So people, you guys can catch it up on Netflix if you know. I mean, actually, not if you want to. I would say you should. You should catch it on Netflix. Okay, so let's go on to the next one. The next one is a very interesting one. It it very much resonates with me. Like there's one quote from that documentary that still right now it's fresh in my head. And the one documentary that we're gonna be talking about now, it's The World Before Her. It's
Mm.
about two different lifestyles, two different theories and thoughts. The new India and the old India, I would say, like in that kind of way, as they did put that, as they did explain in the documentary. The new India is the more westernized and all that. The old India is the more back to the roots and deep to Hinduism, and yes, I just don't want to say certain things that would offend other people. That's why I just kept it at that. And so that. And so it's about this one model. Her name is Ruhi Singh, and she grew up more in the westernized India and more of the westernized culture, where what you call, what was it, fashion, it's with fashion, but I forgot what was it called
It was
specifically.
it was for the Miss India.
Miss Agent, yes, those pageants. That's what it was. Yes, so it was those pageants that in India when they started, and it's a huge story of how, like, having pageants in India is not the right thing to do, and so many people had fought against it since like the 1900s. It's been like, against the India's been against it since then, because it's not the way that Hinduism is, or like the upbringing of how they grew up with is. And so it's again back to it. It's how this one girl, Ruhi Singh, she wants to join this pageant, be Miss India, and she wants that kind of a lifestyle. While in the other side, we have these little girls who are brought up in a more what would you say, as in, like, it would be a more, not really a harsh kind of rigorous training, Bill. It would be more like a different theory, a different thinking, saying that all these pageantries and all being models and being all these actresses, these are unnecessary. Women should not have a choice to do that. Like, they shouldn't be allowed to do this. And and yeah, that's what how I would start it off with. What would you say, on about this documentary?
Harsh, I think again, World Before Her, I think came out in 2012 or something. Now I think it's about 10 years since this documentary released, almost 10 years, and it was a stellar documentary when I saw it at the Mami Film Festival. One of the finest I've seen that came out from India, because in the sense it's again, like, if you just see the thematic upbringing of, like, if you just see thematically every documentary we're talking about, it's not giving you a yes or no answer. It is not giving you an answer in the form of this is and this is not. You know, Similarly, like in the Cecil Hotel, you never saw internet sleuths. As I said, they were good or bad. There were some pros and cons. When we spoke about three identical strangers, nature or nurture, it's not an answer that we have. It's not either or. Likewise, in this particular documentary, the principal protagonists are two protagonists. I would not say, because in the sense it's not a hero or heroine driven or anything. Just two people's lives we are seeing. One is Prachi and one is Ruhi. And Ruhi is the one who's going for the internet pageants, for the beauty
Miss India.
pageants, Miss India
Hmm.
pageant, and for and Prachi is the one who is a part of a Indian nationalist group called Durga Vahini. And if you just see the contrast between the lifestyles of these two women, one might say one is from the east and one is from the west, because literally that is the kind of distance they have between them in the way they are trying to project an idea. Well, one is highly talking about freedom and talking about women going out and representing themselves in beauty pageants, and probably even wearing skimpy swimsuits, and being represented that way in those pageants. And then there is Prachi, who is playing her part in in a group which is a women's group, which restricts women to do things in this particular way because it is against various cultural upbringings. It's Durga Vahini is a way projected as that. But as you progress through the film, you just realize that it's not either or. Again, if you just go through, and Harsh, I'm sure when you must have also observed this, that when it comes to the beauty pageants, and when Ruhi is supposed to talk about the swimsuit round, which at that point of time, various people had objected against, like, why should Indian women wear swimsuits? And that was primary. Somewhere, Ruhi comes up with this line, and if you remember, what she said was that I particularly do not think it is comfortable for me to go and wear these swimsuits and be represented in this particular way. Yeah. There, this woman who is projected to be, not projected to be, she is in so many senses a free willing, free thinking individual who is talking about other women and various ways representing other women in the freedom of what their choices to wear, on what they think, what they say, everything she's trying to come with into the pageant and representing those things. On similar lines, there is the other one who's Prachi, who is going into forums and talking about how women should not be allowed to do these things. But the irony of this entire situation is that Prachi herself has such a strong opinion. Prachi herself, who's talking about women to not have these things, will go out and even at some points of time have an opposite opinion of her own father, who is such a strong figure in her life. So, not either or again, Harsh, in the sense if you just realize both of them have a certain system of belief and they come from a strong sense of self.
True.
Yeah. Now, whether it's nature, whether it's nurture, whether it's culture, whether it's ideology, is a question which probably our friends who watch should enlighten us because we don't really know what it is in the sense,
True, true.
Yeah, so I genuinely think that even today, when there are so many questions being risen in various forums um, about women's rights, um, about child rights, about political rights of and the rights of everybody, like independence, the free will thinking, and everything is at the center of this conversation in so many senses right now with so many movements across the world. Let's not even talk about India. Let's talk about the world right now. And the Black Lives Matter movement. In the Hong Kong protests, there are so many things which are happening in together at one point of time. So which one? I don't know. Please, Harsh, if you can enlighten me, I'd be very happy.
Um, as in like which one is which? I don't know either. Like even I would say like it's there's never that one right answer in life. I would say, right? There's never the one right thing. There's always an either. There's an or. It's very hard to sometimes get into the middle. Like this is what basically it is, right? It's either the left wing. It's either the right wing. It's never the middle. It's never there. So like, it just it's as you did say, like it's just like that. It's just never an either or. It's always an either or. It's very hard, and it's sometimes it's going to be the middle. There's
Mm.
never going to be that one way there every it's either you're going to get a no, you're going to get a yes
Yeah.
in life, or you're never going to get like yeah maybe, yeah maybe it's like this. And I wanted to say this quote. The quote that stuck with me, I forgot who said it. It's that one old lady
Hmm.
who, I forgot her name now, but she said this quote which stuck with me. It's that it has to do with change, which was pretty interesting. That the one thing that's constant in life is change.
Hmm.
So that kind of a quote, that quote stuck with me because it's in a way true. That one thing
Hmm.
in life that there is constant, it's change. You'll always
Yeah.
be changing. Things will always be changing. Nothing's ever gonna, stay the same. Everything's gonna change. So that's why I think that's what they were saying with the other upbringing for Brachi is that her she's not that she's in the constant. She sees that the world is changing around her. It's just that she doesn't accept with what's happening because of how she grew up and how her upbringing was.
And at the same time, Harsh, she does have problems with a lot of things. So, in the sense, even though she's been brought up in a certain way, she has a perception, she has her own thoughts, she has a free will, she's a free thinking human being, in the sense. So, while she, like, it is Confucius' problem, in the sense of contradictions which one has to accept, which are there and which will exist. Uh, the World Before Her, for me, is one of the most remarkable movies, which, uh, in so many senses, will bring towards you the principal problem uh, of what is it to be a woman? What is it to have an opinion while being a woman? How much, um, like, I'm just saying, I know we are both men talking about this and might come in from a sense of like, why, how do we even rationalize this? How do we even, like, but such films, when you watch, uh, in some remote sense, even though probably we might never be able to experience what a woman experiences uh, as men, I feel movies and documentaries like The World Before Her opens up what Heidegger calls the Dasein, a small little window into a world of knowledge. You know, it is knowledge. It is knowledge to know what another person who is not you feels, and a certain segment of people who think and feel in a certain way. So it will open up that little window for us, uh, and probably, I don't know, make us understand some things, make us feel some things. Maybe we come out better on the other side. I don't know. Such films do that to you.
True. Um, so let's then carry on to the next one then, because I know we have a lot of we have a lot to say about like all these documentaries, and I would say that personally, watching all of these individually, it answers and opens up, the mind in ways. For people who want to know where to watch this, it's very hard to find, but on some in US, it's on Amazon Prime, so you can catch on that. But if possible, you can always get the DVD as well. So our last one, it's a very funny one. It's good. It's interesting. It has very sensitive topics as well. It's Fahrenheit 11.9. Before I ask questions to you, Nikhil, Fahrenheit 11.9, when you first told me about this, and when I first saw the title and like imagined the title, I would say it reminded me of the book Fahrenheit 451, I think it was, or it's the book about where they burn. Yeah, it's the book where they talk about where they burn book in this dystopian world, and
Mm-hmm.
that's like the temperature that the book burns, like pages burn at. And then that's the first thing that came to my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And the second thing that came to my mind was 11.9 if you switch them around, as they did in the starting of this documentary. Because when you see in the starting of the documentary, the title of the documentary comes 11. I mean, sorry, Fahrenheit, and then it says 9/11. But then in a minute they switch the 9 and the 11, so it becomes 11.9. Because they're kind of hinting in some way. And so it's about how Trump came to power and how he became president, and about how other things in America that happen in this one city, and how it was talking about how people who have money and power, they are basically, running the world, and they try to get all the good stuff for themselves, while other people, they're letting the others suffer. And what are your thoughts on this documentary?
So I think Harsh. So this is a Michael Moore documentary, if I'm not wrong, and he has made two, right? So there is Fahrenheit 9/11, and there is Fahrenheit 11.9. So 11.9 is the sequel to 9/11, and Fahrenheit 9/11 was, I think, about George W. Bush's presidency, which, of course, Mr. Michael Moore, being the person he is, he did critique it in the sense. Uh, but now the question was that this is a very funny incident in the sense the American people were, I don't think anybody gave Trump a chance, when in the 2016 election, when he was up in front of the Democrat Party with one of the most eligible candidates of Hillary Clinton, who comes with such a huge repertoire of, and a certain kind of understanding. And I don't think anybody gave Trump a chance. I don't know what you think about it. In that particular point of time, when Trump won the election, and this happened, uh, I don't know what you were thinking, Harsh, I don't know what other people are thinking, but this film actually has a line which says, "What the fuck happened?" you know, like, you know, and I genuinely kind of, I said that was what I was thinking, like, and I think I was not alone when I was thinking that, because I'm not, I'm no one to talk about political thought and trying to convey that this person is this or that person. I can't, I don't claim to have that kind of knowledge, but I am not that stupid that I wouldn't understand that this is something which is humongously strange which has happened. Uh, it's a very strange episode in the history of American politics, where a person who comes across saying all the politically inappropriate things in public forums on a continuous basis, many times lying and behaving in a strange manner, becomes the United States of America president. Like, I genuinely, for a moment, thought that tomorrow it might be a chance that I can become the president of the United States of America, because they're very very accepting people in that sense. So, so Michael Moore kind of hit the nail in the head by asking
True.
this massive question. I think he projected. If you see the film, he projects it on a huge building, and by stating what the fuck happened. You know?
Yeah.
That is where the film begins, and then the entire analysis is upon, or the analysis is about not Trump's presidency, but what were the events that happened pre-Trump's presidency, which led to him becoming president. And uh, I don't know how much of it was Trump's doing. I think he talks about primarily certain episodes of the Obama administration, which led to certain alienations from a large society. Someone, some people who believed in the democratic systems and processes, uh, and they felt alienated by certain decisions. Now, I'm not sure whether the way the filmmaker has done the process is representative enough to show that this is why Trump became president. I'm not sure, because most of the film, from what I understand, is centered around Flint. Yeah, right. So in the and the water problems around Flint, and uh, and how a certain big percentage of people believe that the water was toxic, and how a
Yeah.
certain large proportion of the Obama administration, including Obama himself, who did not probably support this crowd. Of course, conversations around Bernie Sanders, Alexandria Ocasio Cortez, and all of these representatives from the Democrat uh, fraternity does come in. But I think while the film does create a certain emphasis around the political climate in America, uh, I'm not sure whether the expanse of it is limited to Flint and could have gone in other directions. I'm not sure about that. But within the dimension of exploring that there were certain events that took place in America before Trump became president that led to him becoming president, is the principal axis around which this film, uh, for me, kind of represented. And of course, there are other aspects also, but the narrative arc is around that, and it's it's done quite hilariously. I think a lot of the episodes that come out, and the way the filmmaker himself becomes the part of the storytelling process, is an interesting way to see a documentary. I found the
Like the whole
yeah.
starting bit, like even him when he was mentioning facts, like how America's actually a liberal country, and it was saying that how many percentage of these many people, this percentage of people like want to have the whole country allowed with Obama, not Obamacare, but with Medicare. This much percent would want, freedom of rights. This much percent want this and that. It just goes on and on. Like that whole one section just tells you how many percent of the people actually want things that would actually benefit everyone. And I found that pretty interesting that they, smacked that right there in the start. And the other part that I found, it was just for pure laughs and giggles, but he did make a point. It was Michael Moore when he was like, when he got water from from Flint, and he filled it
Mm.
filled the whole tanker with it. He went to the mayor. The I don't know who it was. Was it the
Yeah.
mayor of Flint? I think, yeah. We went to his house, his mansion. That's how the mansions are there, and just sprayed the water happily there. That last part I found funny was when he got a glass of water and he's like, "I'm here to make a citizen's arrest,"
Mm.
and then he's like, "Here, I brought water from Flint. Please drink." He's like, "No," and the guy's like, "No, no, no, I'm good. I don't want to drink it." And he's like, "Okay, so you're admitting that this water is poisonous and it contains lead and it's gonna harm you."
Mm.
He's like, "No, no, no. It's just that I don't know where the water's from." And he's like, "No, no, I just told you the water's from Flint. Why don't you just try it, right?" It's just was great. Yeah, just him.
Yeah.
Him being there was just brilliant. He helped with the narrative of the story.
Yeah, I kind of reminded me of a certain storyteller from a certain storyteller called Jafar Panahi. He's an Iranian filmmaker who creates some of the most fascinating movies, but always as a part of the movie himself, in the sense. So
Ah.
kind of like Jafar Panahi, when he was restricted to making films, he created a film which is called "This Is Not a Film." And there is somewhere where this dark humor of what you are not allowed to do comes out by you doing it, and somewhere Michael Moore also creates and uses humor as a political tool. Like they say, humor and comedy, when used, and create some of the most stellar political art. Like think about it. Like if it, I live in Mumbai, in Maharashtra, and some of the principal stalwarts of the people who kind of uh, created the Mumbai identity was Balasaheb Thackeray. He was a cartoon. He was a cartoonist. He created cartoons and created images, and which became a political tool to critique so many people. And some people didn't like it, but yeah, to them they own. So art in the form of comedy is a political tool to express yourself. And Michael Moore does it so well in this film. I think one must see both his films, of course, 9/11 and 11/9 Fahrenheit, and they together kind of make a strong comment on the American people. And right now, maybe there could be a third part, considering what has happened just now.
Could
With
be, could be.
Yeah, I think Fahrenheit. I don't know what.
Could be.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and yeah, so it's yeah, these are the four documentaries that we feel like everyone should be watching right now, and it's like or should have it on their to watch list because they do really open up your mind in certain ways, and they do teach us about certain things that we don't like. I didn't know, like when I was watching Fahrenheit 11/9, I didn't even know what was happening. Like I didn't know this even happened. I myself was shocked. Like, dude, this is happening. Like, and I didn't know this. It just teaches you the truth, as I did mention. Like, that's what documentaries do, right? They give you the truth.
Mm.
Um, and before we, sign off and before we leave, I would just like to mention to the viewers and to the listeners is that I will split this episode in little chapters on the timeline, so you can then see from which chapter you would like to watch list or you would want to watch from for YouTube and for Spotify. I guess I'll just put in the description below where we start, what topic, and so you can carry on from there. Yes, I would say that it was really nice to have you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for taking time from your busy life and spending it here with me. And before we leave, I would like you to tell where can the audience find you, because you also do amazing piece of art, and you also are an actor. So I would like to know where they would find you so they can know. And I'll
So,
mention everything. Sorry, I'll mention everything in the description below so everyone can check you out. But yes, go on.
thank you. So, I run a company called Readings in the Shed. We, along with my friend and colleague Himali Kuthari, and we create new material. Some of it is docudrama, not docu fiction or docu performance, not docu uh, But it's documentary theater, where a lot of it is created through material like articles, love letters, graphic novels, so many other paraphernalia, which is material for us to create our performances. And um, our docudramas happen on stage. We performed at the NCPA. We performed at NCPA is National Center for Performing Arts in Mumbai, uh, and we performed at the Goethe Institute, Max Miller Bhavan, Mumbai, and there are multiple other venues that we physically perform. But in COVID, we haven't been able to perform, yeah, considering these circumstances. But you can catch a lot of our work on our website, readingsintheshed.com. We are also on various social media channels, that is Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. So you can always find us by looking up Readings in the Shed. Uh, as for me personally, you can find me at the Ink Decoction. That's my Instagram name. So you can look me up and you can find me there. Thank you, Harsh.
Thank you. And all will be in the description below, so don't worry. Yes, thank you for coming along and being on this podcast.